In America, everyone counts, and the 2020 census is how that great promise is kept. Respond today online, by phone, or by mail, and help inform hundreds of billions in funding for education, health programs, and more. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov. We were talking again about this video that, the audio that dropped today that has caused a lot of consternation. And so this is the conversation that Donald Trump had with Bob Woodward of the Washington Post. Listen to this.
Now it's turning out it's not just old people, Bob. Just today and yesterday, some startling facts came out. It's not just older young people, to plenty of young people.
So
what's going on
give me a moment of talking to somebody, going through this with Fauci or somebody who kind of it caused a pivot in your mind, because it's clear just from what's on the public record that you went through a pivot on this to, oh my God, the gravity is almost inexplicable and unexplainable.
Well, I think, Bob, really, to be honest with you,
sure, I want you to.
I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
Yes, sir.
Because I don't want to create a panic.
Okay, so you actually heard Donald Trump. Okay, so at the White House press briefing was delayed for a bit because they had to figure out what they were going to say. And if you want to know how absolutely nuts these people are, listen to Kayleigh McEnany, the press secretary, just lie to the American people.
How can the president bear no responsibility for the almost 200,000 lives lost when he downplayed the virus initially and he knew how contagious and deadly it was? I don't understand how that can...
The president never downplayed the virus. Once again, the president expressed calm. The president was serious about this when Democrats were pursuing their sham impeachment. He was expressing calm, and he was taking early action, and his actions are reflective of how seriously he took COVID.
The tact that he took, the language that he used?
No.
You said that he used hopeful language. Does he regret that, given where we are now?
No, this president embodied the American spirit that when we face a challenge, a crisis, a pandemic, we come together. We can be optimistic. We can be serious about it. We can take it seriously with our actions, which is exactly what this president does. It's why we lead the world in testing.
Did she just say Donald Trump did not downplay it? Okay, I'm going to go back to what Donald Trump said. Now, y'all, listen. There's audio. There's literally audio. Bob Woodward records his interviews. Kayleigh McEnany says Donald Trump did not downplay coronavirus. This is Trump downplaying it.
Now it's turning out it's not just old people, Bob. Just today and yesterday, some startling facts came out. It's not just older young people, to plenty of young people.
So
what's going on
give me a moment of talking to somebody, going through this with Fauci or somebody who kind of it caused a pivot in your mind, because it's clear just from what's on the public record that you went through a pivot on this to, oh my God, the gravity is almost inexplicable and unexplainable.
Well, I think, Bob, really, to be honest with you,
sure, I want you to.
I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
Yes, sir.
Because I don't want to create a panic.
I always wanted to play it down. I am still playing it down because I did not want to create a panic. My pals, A. Scott Bolton, former chair, National Bar Association Political Action Committee, Robert Patillo, Executive Director, Rainbow Push Coalition, Peachtree Street Project, Teresa Lundy, Principal Founder, TML Communications. Teresa, so dude was lying. He was lying. He knew he was serious. He's saying one thing privately. nothing publicly, and all of these idiots who are following him were saying, and all these states who were not implementing the right strategy because he was downplaying it. And then for Kayleigh McEnany to stand there and say, I wouldn't lie to you, and then actually lie, that's just beyond stupid.
It's beyond, Eric. It's like I can't think of the words outside of disgusting and dangerous of the two words that I can think of what Donald Trump has done since this pandemic. Thousands of lives could have been changed if he did not downplay it, if he did not want to cause the panic, right? Because, again, we haven't had a pandemic in 102 years since the Spanish flu. So there obviously is a playbook of what could have been done, but I think the first and foremost thing that could have been done, especially with this type of president, is tell the truth, and to ensure that his staff was also telling the truth and not trying to make sure they have his back. Kayleigh, I was impressed with her as a young woman, in her 30s as the press secretary, but she's been willing to really just lose herself in this entire process. Right? There's one thing to be on the campaign, but then there's one to actually serve the White House and the American people, and she hasn't been doing that. So, but that goes for a whole stem of his team. So I'm not sure what's happening in those back rooms where, before they get to a press conference and before they are getting their daily briefings, it's how can we protect the president? But no one's protecting the American people, and that's why we have thousands of lives that are dying because of this misinformation.
These folks are absolute liars, Robert. And for Trump defenders to say, oh no, he was protecting the people, he was looking out for the people, didn't want there to be a panic. 200,000 people are now dead.
You're absolutely correct, Roland. And think about when these first tapes took place. This was mid to early February. So this is before Donald Trump did his speech where he said the coverage of his response was a hoax. This was before Matt Gaetz sat on the floor of Congress with a gas mask on. This is before we went back and forth for 3 months over whether or not we should be taking hydroxychloroquine. This is before we were having a full-blown culture war with rifles and rocket launchers over wearing masks. Donald Trump knew in February and March that masks were effective and that it was airborne, and just chose to say downplay the need to wear masks and cause armed conflicts over wearing masks. Think about the thousands and thousands of people who could have had their lives saved, the thousands and thousands of people who would not be infected today if we had simply taken this seriously in February instead of finding out in September what was the truth. And also for Bob Woodruff, how do you sit on this information for 6 months? I understand you want to put it into a book, you want to compile the information, but this is vital national security and health information. How do you just sit on this for 6 months and only release it when it's time for your book to come out, instead of letting the American people know months ago information going to save tens of thousands of lives? So this is just an all-around failure of our broken system. And unfortunately, Trump has become trans veracity. He's past the point of anybody caring whether or not he is lying. People assume that he is lying and then continue on from there. This week, we're talking about, did he lie about coronavirus and have it on tape? Last week, it was whether or not he called military families losers and suckers. The week before that, it was whether or not he was trying to defund the post office. The week before that, he tweeted about trying to move the election. We're doing the monster of the week thing from Power Rangers in the 90s, fighting each individualized battle instead of taking a cohesive approach of just saying that this is a nation in chaos. This is what a failed state looks like. This is what late-stage capitalism, as Werner put it, looks like, and that we are having our systems broken apart at the seams. And unless we are willing to make corrective action, it may be too late to save what we have left.
A hoax. Yeah. This was one of the questions that was raised at the press briefing. Of course, Kayleigh could not answer this one. Y'all listen to this.
He's not lying. Why did he call it a hoax? Kayleigh, if he's not lying, why did he call it a hoax?
Of course, she wouldn't answer that one. Scott, he wouldn't answer that question. But it's legitimate. It's like he kept calling it a hoax, but she's saying, but he wasn't lying. Really?
It's like you ever painted a floor or a wall and painted yourself into a corner where where you don't have a response or you can't get out without stepping on the paint. That's where Kayleigh was today in that press conference. She's defending or trying to defend the indefensible. She has a boss that lies with no conscience whatsoever. He has no conscience. He doesn't care. He knew he was being taped. He knew this book was coming out, and he still lied. And there are no repercussions. Robert and I were talking about this earlier. There are no repercussions, so he just keeps on lying about it. That's just really, really a very bad situation for our democracy. It really is. And the other thing you got to remember here is that his lies, it's worse than the taping, by the way. He was briefed in December by his intelligence people who said this was coming. He admitted that on tape. And he was asked about that, and that's when he went into how he played it down. But him playing it down cost lives. And so, but again, it doesn't matter to his GOP and that 40%. Democrats better come out in large numbers because this president is probably the most dangerous president who's ever been in the White House.
Bottom line is here. His supporters, Teresa, they don't give a damn. They don't care if he lies. They don't. They're just going to sit here and just vote for whatever. But the bottom line here is this here. I would hope there are people who are independents. I would hope there are pissed off Democrats who are going to turn out in large numbers, because if you think that what this man has done so far is crazy, give his ass 4 more years.
I think people are actually waking up to what Donald Trump has been doing the last 5 years. And you know what? The way Robert literally just did the week by week scenario, that I feel like we're pretty much in a series with our president is, I think people are really starting to understand why it's important to get to the polls. I don't even think we need to do any more media ad buys as it relates to getting to the polls. I think now it's just more about understanding just what needs to happen. So, I mean, there has been countless conversations, countless meetings and conferences that have been just popping up where people are really getting engaged and saying, you know what, the last couple days, weeks of the election, they are trying to figure out what needs to be done. And so they're galvanizing, they're having conversations, setting up volunteer strategies. I know commissioner's office across Pennsylvania are actually paying people to be poll workers, right? That is the first time that's actually been done outside of the party. But now the state is actually stepping in and saying, listen, we need more bodies at the polls. And so I think there's a lot of young people stepping up. I think there has been a lot of change and movement. But again, Trump's administration has lost the message when Trump started, when all these revelations started to come to light. So, it's a huge opportunity here.
Yeah, but Roland, if I may, real quick, we've got 3 opponents as Democrats, right? You've got the GOP / Donald Trump. You've got voter suppression, and you got Russian interference that Democrats are running against. He underpolls in every poll, as we know. How do the Democrats defeat that?
You got to turn folks out. Simple as that. That's what you got to do. I said this here. I tweeted this here, folks. Y'all be able to see my video. Let me know if you're okay. So I said, after the Bob Woodward thing came out, first thing I said is I wonder how fast the folks with the Lincoln Project are going to be able to get an ad out. That was like one of the first things that I said. And so I said, and I think the tapes came out around 11 or so. And I said, I think they'll have an ad out by 3 o'clock. Actually, they're out before 2 o'clock. So this is what they dropped that quick.
This is more deadly. This is 5 per, this is 5% versus 1% and less than 1%, so this is deadly stuff.
We show cases, 99% of which are totally harmless.
Not just older.
Yeah, exactly.
People, to plenty of young people.
Young people are almost immune to this disease.
It's also more deadly than your your strenuous flus.
We lose thousands and thousands of people a year to the flu. We don't turn the country off.
I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
What this does, Robert, Trump wanted desperately for the conversation to be about law and order. No, he did not want it to be about coronavirus. This brings it back to his Achilles heel.
Of course, this is Achilles heel, and I think the strategy that we've seen the White House roll out today, of saying it was just about trying to prevent a panic, I think that might be one of the dumbest talking points I've heard, and you can tell that this caught them completely off guard. The idea of this president not wanting to incite panic when the entire Republican convention was a return to the American Horror Story, MS-13 will be sent to the suburbs to destroy your communities and rape your wife. That is inciting panic. This idea of putting the McCloskeys on television who tried to kill protesters, tweeting about Killer Kyle and Kenosha. That is inciting violence. That is inciting discord. So this idea of wanting to keep a calm in the American people, this is almost like telling your wife that you only lied to her because you knew it would make her angry. That is the equivalent of what the White House is rolling out as their defense, that the president didn't want you to panic. That's why he lied to you about how deadly a virus was. It's killed tens of thousands of, at this point, hundreds of thousands of Americans. We are 20% of the death toll of the entire earth. And we are not 20% of the world population. So this idea that he rolled out in his press conference today saying, well, we did a great job because millions would have died without what we did, and I only lied to you to keep you calm, I think that is a point that Democrats have to hop on. Not just the Lincoln Project, not just Republican groups, not just the media. The Democratic Party has to have a way to articulate a message and turn it around quickly and use that to motivate voters. If you can link the fact that we've been in quarantine for 6 months to the fact that the president lied to us the first month when he could have gotten a hold
and that
of this,
people died.
That is how you get people motivated. But simply turning this into just the latest in a week by week scandal is how you lose the messaging war. Think about the fact that President Trump got impeached earlier this year. We don't even talk about that in the election season. He is that able to change the conversation. So if the Democrats don't hop on this like a starving dog on a bone, then you're going to end up losing this week of messaging.
The folks with the Midas touch also dropped their ad. Watch this.
Trump pretended the coronavirus wouldn't come to our shores.
I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
The risk to the American people remains very low.
He pretended the Democrats were overreacting.
And this is their new hope.
He pretended it would go away.
A lot of people think that goes away in April with the heat.
And then he pretended again.
It's also more deadly than your strenuous flus.
View this the same as the flu.
And again.
At some point, that's going to sort of just disappear.
And again.
It's going away. No, it'll go away.
While Trump pretended, Americans faced real consequences. Nearly 200,000 dead and rising. Businesses closed. And now, as over 1,000 Americans die each day, what's the Trump administration's plan? Pretend that the pandemic is over. In a time of crisis, Americans can't afford to have a pretend president.
I wanted to always play it down.
Midas Touch is responsible for the content of this advertising.
I think you're going to see the hammer constantly, Teresa. And the other piece is here. Joe Biden's already out. He was speaking in Michigan. He spoke out on this as well. I mean, this is the defining issue of this campaign, and it has a direct impact on turnout as well. And so I don't think you're going to see it reflected in polling for another 3 to 4 days. But again, the fact that if Democrats hammer this constantly, this is going to help them.
This is a phenomenal gift to the Democratic Party. I think, when Donald Trump began to show who he was from the beginning, if we remember from the beginning of his campaign days, to how they were trying to get him to transform while he was president. It just didn't work. The real Donald Trump coming down the escalator of his building showed up in the beginning stages, right? And I think it's coming to the forefront where everybody is starting to honestly get their talking points together. But honestly, it's like, does this make sense to you, right? So it's not as much as a that the Democrats have to put out like, hey, he did this, he did this. You can literally have a workbook, unfortunate, about why Donald Trump lies to the American people, and the Republicans continuously have his back. It's getting so bad that the Republicans are literally on CNN, MSNBC, and Fox, and they really can't explain some of the things that he does. So if you see most of them, they actually stop having the interviews unless it's talking about their bill. Because it's hard to defend someone where you really just don't understand it or keeping you out the loop. Donald Trump has proven to him, his team, and the American people that he doesn't care about lying, doesn't care about the lives that were lost, he doesn't care about the families, the testimonials, the police brutality. He went to Wisconsin and gave, some mayors $1 million for their police department, but said nothing to Jacobs Blake's family. I mean, if we don't have a president that is for us, and I think Democrats need to make that very clear on Election Day, but, more so in their everyday conversations.
Yep.
We absolutely should be having these dialogues about what the next president of the United States looks like. And if we're not only talking about Joe Biden, we absolutely have to talk about Senator Kamala Harris.
And folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. As our community comes together to support the fight against racial injustice, I want to take a second to talk about one thing we can do to ensure our voices are heard. Not tomorrow, but now. Have your voices heard in terms of what kind of future we want by taking the 2020 census today at 2020census.gov? Now, folks, let me help you out. The census is a count of everyone living in the country. It happens once every 10 years. It is mandated by the U.S. Constitution. The thing that's important is that the census informs funding, billions of dollars, how they are spent in our communities every single year. I grew up in Clinton Park in Houston, Texas, and we wanted new parks and roads and a senior citizen center. Well, the census helps inform all of that and where funding goes. It also determines how many seats your state will get in the U.S. House of Representatives. Young black men and young children of color are historically undercounted, which means a potential loss of funding for services that helps our community. Folks, we have the power to change that. We have the power to help determine where hundreds of billions in federal funding go each year for the next 10 years. Funding that can impact our community, our neighborhoods, and our families and friends. Folks, responses are 100% confidential and can't be shared with your landlord, law enforcement, or any government agency. So please, take the 2020 census today. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov.